board, and then I'll share the screen. But first, I need to just tell you what I'm going to do. This video, The Heritage of Slavery, needs to, have a little conversation here. So share the screen. There it is right there. Share it. And we're unmuted, so let's just push play, shall we?
If you're going to go to jail for something. Have yourself a plan and make something count when you do go to jail. This is the type of program, but the thing that we don't have no program to go to the man and say, this is what we want. But there's a lot of things in my past.
So he was just saying that, we really didn't have a way to go to the man and ask for what we want. But do we have a way to go to where? And this is like 2020. This is actually 2020. I stopped sharing the screen. And we're living in a society where if you have a child, then you have personal responsibility to make sure that you have everything that you need to ensure that child has access. That's your responsibility. But people who look like me seem to believe somehow that happens without your intervention. And that doesn't happen without your intervention. You have a personal responsibility to understand that planning is what they do, and they plan all the time. And, we came into this game in the 60s. So after the Civil Rights Act in 1964, then, there was, Goals 2000, and then there was Leave No Child Behind. And now there's a Local Control Accountability Act in California. But here in Nevada, I don't know what there is. I don't believe there's anything. Because here in Nevada is where they don't do government. So I'm just trying to wrap my brain around, if they're not doing government, but I'm a citizen, what the expectation of citizenship should be in 2020. Because, this is 2020, however. And what should the expectation be of citizenship? Well, you're born naturally, and you're born as a freeborn American. I can't even go through the things that happened during the slavery, during, the fight for civil rights, because, that wasn't my time. And actually during my time, we struggled with a few things, but mostly the things were about quality of service. And what is quality of service, and how do you measure the maintenance of effort? And what that actually looks like. We did parent involvement, we did local community engagement, all that happened. I served on so many committees, and I can just tell you, I flew to Texas. And when Sacramento City Unified School District decided to implement the small schools grant, they implemented 5 tiny charter schools, all dependent charters, which that meant the district was going to sustain those charters for 5 years. And they were going to start with a very few students, but they were going to allocate like $500,000 every year for them to have a beginning to start. Some of them made it, but not all of them made it. But the money still came out of the general fund, and, it still did it. Public education has to do with the local community. Public services have to do with local community. I think we're confused as a people. There's a city, and then there's a county. There's a state, and then there's the federal government. Did I leave anything out? County Board of Supervisors, County Office of Education. You kind of hear where I'm coming from? State Board of Education, local Department of Education. I mean, there's services, and we all pay taxes. And so, I was hoping that, this is 2020, and that perhaps more than me was listening to the young rap artists talking about they had to pay $100,000 in taxes. That's taxes. And then that if you're a doctor or a lawyer, because it's not like we've been prohibited from making progress. We do. We're in the fabric of America, let's say. We are in the fabric of America, and we are Americans. We could be nothing else. We were born here, born to this nation. We are not politically linked, although we have political linkages. So yes, we do participate in public, oversight. In a manner of speaking, We get elected to positions to represent everyone, not to represent ourselves. But we came into this game and then we parted it all out by ethnicity. So, Asians get some chunk of money, white kids get some chunk of money, gifted kids get some chunk of money, poor kids get some chunk of money, black kids, based on poverty. Money comes to, children. Money comes through children for states who have to take care of their people in poverty. That's what the census is so important. And they've had the census for a long time. So they count the individuals who live in a state based on their origin, who they are. Basically, you don't even have to be a citizen to be counted in the census. The census is real because we all pay taxes. But then when you start thinking about who's just really paying those taxes, ask yourself another question. People like to say black people don't pay taxes. Poor people pay taxes. But that's not who I'm talking about who's paying taxes. I'm talking about people like Drake or like Kanye West. Like, you know what I'm talking about. Barack Obama. I mean, people, my people who look like me, who put lots of money into the federal government. Not like our current president who paid less money in taxes than his current secretary, but he didn't need to show that to you because he's got to where he's gotten by using the system. We all must understand that we must use the system. I'm talking today because, I'm frustrated. Let's get real. There are people, and people live in states, but just because you live in one state or another doesn't, push you one way or another. You're a freeborn. This is 2020. You're born free in America. You have a responsibility. That responsibility lies on get off your behind. Look, you could be pretending that participating in the system, you get what you get. But you don't get nothing if you don't start out equally. Equity is everything. People need to have access to resources. But see, the people who were providing the resources for very long or have been providing those resources equally to people, equal, but not based on your needs. The conversation has always been about what was needed to, fill the glass half empty, half full, whatever. But it's unfortunate that, it's real. Look, I want to share another video with you. Share the screen and go share the desktop here. Share that one. I want to share that one. And share the screen. But we have to go over here because I want to go to another YouTube page that I had saved. This one. Oh, it's the first one. Oh, my Lord. And listen, shall we? Listen together. Oh, turn it up. The new African American community in District post-Civil War.
In the period of 1867 to 1871, this is a period right after the Civil War and before D.C. became a territory, before Congress instituted territorial government in D.C. You have some drastic changes in the city, and it all starts with African Americans petitioning for the right to vote, for universal suffrage. They believe that, particularly with the acquisition of the vote in 1867, they would be able to essentially erect a new social order in the district that would have far-reaching political ramifications. So you had in the city already a Black community with its own Black elite, and now added to that, you have leaders who have attracted to the city due to government, Congress, and things that are happening. People like Sojourner Truth and Frederick Douglass and others. John Marshall Langston, Augusta Alexander, and they're also attracted to some of the Black institutions that have cropped up at this time, such as Howard University and Freedmen's Bureau.
By 1871, Blacks in the district had made many strides in the quest for equality, but with mounting pressure from whites in the city, Congress and the president instituted the territorial form of government in order to gain control over Black political and social mobility.
Frederick Douglass and other Blacks will continue to fight for Black equality. More specifically, they will push for equal funding of schools, if not the integration of schools in the District of Columbia. And though this fails, other measures do succeed. In 1872, the territorial government will pass another civil rights bill that will end discrimination in places of public accommodation. A $100 fine will be assessed for those who violate it.
But by 1874, Congress eliminated territorial government in the district, taking full control of the city and virtually snuffing out Black political power and progress.
So the collapse of the territorial government gave the enemies of Black political advancement an opportunity, even if white folks had to suffer, to check the involvement of Blacks in local politics in the nation's capital.
See, this is done in 2012. This is 2020. Where are we? We lived through this.
In 1876, controversy surrounded the presidential election of Republican Rutherford B. Hayes. Southern Democrats who supported Samuel Tilden for president refused to concede the race. Their anger was fueled by gains by African Americans, which among other things enabled Blacks to vote. The stalemate threatened the Union's shaky foundation as a filibuster on Capitol Hill dragged on for weeks, preventing the election of a new president.
As the filibuster continued, they started to work on a compromise, and over the course of several meetings, the last one ending up ironically in the Wormley Hotel, which James Wormley was a local Black businessman who had probably the best hotel in Washington at the time. So the compromise was finally worked out, whereby the filibustering would stop. The electoral votes would be given to Hayes, and in exchange, federal troops would be withdrawn from the South, and the Southerners would be left to do with the Negroes what they wanted. It really was the death knell for the freedom that had been hard fought and hard won during the Civil War.
Further erosion of the gains made during Reconstruction would intensify following the landmark decision in 1896 by the Supreme Court in Plessy versus Ferguson.
The thing about Plessy was that he was very, very light. He could pass for white and had bought a first-class ticket. So he was in the first-class section. And when the conductor came to take his ticket, said, "I am 1/8 Black, and I'm going to sit here in this car." So then the conductor, had no choice but to eject and call the police in, and they arrested him. So he sues, and that's what ended up in the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court rejected Plessy's argument that his rights as a citizen had been violated when he was ejected from first class. Instead, the court affirmed the legal foundation of segregation policies and the doctrine separate but equal.
Black activists in this country were, again, naturally alarmed. And at the same time, the violence was increasing and became a part of life. So a group of Black intellectuals and activists got together at Niagara Falls and decided, especially because of the disenfranchisement movement going on, that they needed to organize and do something about it. Ironically, they met the next year in Harper's Ferry because that was one of the very few places in this country where a large group of Black people could meet. They could get accommodations and so on. Some of that group then met with a group of white intellectuals and decided to form a multiracial group to fight for basically the same things. But the group attracted people of means, and so they named W.E. Du Bois as the face of the organization. They had another conference the next year, and that's when they named it the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and really began to be very aggressive.
While the loss of voting rights was disheartening, additional humiliation came after the inauguration of President Woodrow Wilson. New segregationist policies in federal offices disgraced middle-class African-American civil servants, and federal regulations prohibited African-Americans from sharing public facilities with whites.
Okay, let's peek over here. This way. There's something.
Thinking for masters. Most Southerners didn't even own slaves, but they became victims of the glamour surrounding big plantations. Today, there is talk of equality in the future.
I get up at 4 o'clock and get my breakfast done. Just at dawn of day, I go to the field and we pick cotton.
Mr. and Mrs. Haywood Jenkins of Sharkey County, Mississippi have, between them, picked cotton for over a century.
My boss man came along. He says, Ray Jane? I said, sir. I say, when you wash? I said, I washed last night. He said, I don't want you to do that no more. That's my agent, you know. He says, every Friday morning or Friday evening, you wash. And let all the children stay there with you until you get through. When you get through, then y'all go back to field and wait. Now, the agent was mean, some of them. Some of them was mean. They want to hook the colored people. And that time, the white man come along. He says, hey, but you ain't in the field yet? He just had started applying. He said, yes, I just not had to eat my dinner. God damn it, you ain't doing a goddamn thing. Says, God damn it, I ought to take this damn stick and free the hell out. He said, no, she said, if you free the hell out of me, goddamn, I free the hell out of you. Make me feel bad if I was under them, you know, how mean they was to treat us like that.
This is what I wanted to share.
Mississippi, white control has made the past hard to distinguish from the present.
That's
more than anyone else, the spirit of resistance to this control has been Fannie Lou Hamer. At the 1964 Democratic Convention, Mrs. Hamer was a leader of the attempt to unseat the regular Democratic delegation from Mississippi.
Mississippi is still a very rough place. You know, people is not just walking up like they used to do in the past, walking out, you know, shooting a man down or getting maybe 200 or 300 people carrying you out and lynching you, but it's in a more settled way. You know, they can let you starve to death, not give you jobs. These are some of the things that's happening right now in Mississippi. See, Mississippi.
And it's what I can say about Las Vegas right here. What they're doing is that everybody has access to public school system. It's unfortunate that so many Black people don't have access to the same early Head Start as some white people, because they take the Head Start money and they move it all the way up to 28% of the poverty level. And then they have so few Black children that actually even know what Head Start is. It's amazing to me. But because behavior seems to be the maintenance of effort, because here in Las Vegas, they have a 259% suspension expulsion rate, and that was prior to the COVID. So now the COVID happened, they're still stuck on a student absenteeism when they never really even had the way to reach back and ensure that they had contact with the families, that they were educating. Because guess what? The real deal is that they really we're not educating those families. How do you get to a people in a city as a nation and then have a segment of the population whose children aren't even having access to basic skills? Because they go through this system for 12 years and come out and they can't add or subtract. You know what I'm saying? It's just wild. And then because there's just no maintenance of effort. So here we have a group of people who are basically committing fraud, because they certainly get paid for working with Title I children. And there's a whole lot of employment based on Workforce Investment Act. Public education here, because there's a lot of charter schools, a lot of alternative schools that are not holding themselves accountable either. So here in Las Vegas, if you don't have skills, I'm sorry, you're just out there. as a part of the regular harvest. They have something called Spring Mountain where they put some kids up there in juvenile hall, and they had to move them children down. But I can't find out what they're doing or the educational options, what's happening for those children in Spring Mountain either. But the real deal is that it's unfortunate that you cannot ask a question here about how they're providing services to all children who reach the 3rd grade and what is the maintenance of effort. You see, my problem is that I believe that the system is the same in every single state in America, even in the military. And a maintenance of effort is required when you use federal dollars. So if you're going to get the federal money to help your people in poverty, you need to show that you're doing something with the money. And everybody who is born a human in America has a responsibility to ensure that there is a level of maintenance that happens to ensure that people are engaged in the process here. And if you're not educating voters, then guess what? I believe that you are creating an oppressive system in which people become dependent on system services for life because they're not educated. Let's hear some more Fannie Lou Hamer, shall we?
Mississippi is not actually Mississippi's problem. Mississippi is America's problem. Because if America wanted to do something about what has been going on in Mississippi, it could have stopped by now. It wouldn't have been in the past few years, between 40 and 50 churches bombed and burned. You see, and this leads me to say, all of the burning and bombing that was done to us and the houses, nobody never said too much about that, and nothing was done. But let something be burned, by a black man, and then, my God, you see, the flag is drenched with our blood. Because, you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We had to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man, as we know this country was built on the black back of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what
So isn't that what's still being said right now? Because, people want to understand what is it that black people give to this society. But see, we don't have any control over the public services being rendered in our local communities for children who look like us. Not as a whole. Individually, hell yeah. Individually, you can rock the world and make sure your child has access. But as a whole, we're being denied, just as always, to have a critical conversation in regards to public services for people who look like us. And there is absolutely no accountability. And it's as if accountability is an effing joke. Here in Clark County, they're having meetings in regards to the weighted formula for all children. But in this, they're talking about what they're doing with the federal allocations of the money. They're including that federal money just as sure as they are including services for children with disabilities. But yet and still, in the 259% behavioral infractions, there were no separation of any of the data that would demonstrate that maybe some of those children had disabilities. But we know, how do you get a 259% infraction of a higher rate of dysfunctional behavior, higher than any other ethnic group, unless that's what you're investing in? So perhaps we are not slaves in the same sense that, but we are still living on the same plantation, and our children are still forced to participate in public services in which we are not thriving. And that concerns me in 2020. Shall we listen to Fannie Lou Hamer again?
they're saying. And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand it. They know what they've done to us. all across this country. They know what they've done to us. This country is desperately sick, and man is on the critical list. I really don't know where we go from here.
May I have your attention, please? Greyhound coach now loading on my end.
Where many black Mississippians are going is north. Over 400,000 since 1950.
And you know what? No matter what, no matter where we are now, because of COVID, it really demonstrates the inability to, I can stop sharing the screen right now. Pause the share and come back to the camera. It really just demonstrates that, hey, you know, it's real. We never really had access. And that's what life has become. No access for us as a people. How is it that we don't have access, you might ask? We have the same opportunities as all other people. But no, you don't. Because if you just follow the rules, you don't get nothing. So if you're just following the rules and your child's in school at the age of 5, well, sometimes here in Clark County, it's not until the age of 7. What can you know at 7 years old when children had early access from the age of 3? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 4 years Head Start. And guess what? Early Head Start and takes infants and toddlers also, depending on if they have a special need. That's how they're getting their children in. The real deal is that the public services are out there for all of us. And you are just entitled to all of the services that would demonstrate that it's a maintenance of effort for your children, but you ain't getting nothing except for the letter of grade. And what the community has accepted, and they can't say they haven't, here is letter grades of F for the Black children. And how unfortunate it is. How unfortunate is that? You can't make me understand anything about public education, because I know that at the age of 3, a parent can have their child assessed to determine if they have a language disability or speech impediment or a learning disability, and that there are real federal dollars allocated to ensure that access happens for all children. But yet and still, we act like special education is something you get, it's a joke. It is not a joke. It's called Cadillac Services. It's called Burger King. It's called, hey, it's what you need, not necessarily what you want. What is in the world is going on when we have so many Black children receiving letter grades of Fs and still being promoted to the next grade because of social promotion? Oh, excuse me. Allergies are real. But, you know, what is social promotion? Well, what is social emotional learning? Someone help me with that. You can't help me with that. Because guess what? It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. I could try and invite somebody. It just depends on who's online and who might be paying attention to the email that I send them. Sherilyn Dalton. I'll send her an invitation and see if she decides to join me in the Zoom meeting. But I just want to say that, you know, I have had an opportunity to really invest in the American society. I believe that America is really, you know, the land of the free, hey, the home of the brave, and we are truly free. And what is freedom? Freedom is just not free. Freedom ain't never been free. Freedom requires that you wake up and that you actually participate. It is not a game. The 4th of July, what is it? It's a lie for you, because we've never been free. In the maintenance of effort, in the dollars that are coming into our community, and then we have all of these entertainers. I mean, Nipsey Hussle said it best, you know, or you know, he pays. I mean, he was required to pay $100,000 in taxes. What does that look like for you if you never even earned $100,000? Come on now, we're talking about tax allocations. We're talking about music rights. We're talking about copyrights. Copyrights right now is all about what's going on right now on the internet, for sure. Pimping ain't easy, but hey, I always say somebody got to do it. It's just real. We have a personal responsibility to wake up. We have personal responsibility to understand that personal responsibility means that you have to have some forethought. You know, when you decide to, we have a responsibility to help our children establish a foundation. Because, you know, just because we didn't have it didn't mean that others were not as organized as, you know, and didn't have to do without. Everything is like, you're on your own, truly. But once you know what you know, no one can take it away. Once you're empowered, you are just totally self-empowered. And guess what? Good luck on anybody trying to bridle you, because that's what freedom's about. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of whatever, right? It's real. That's why it's important for you to know, as an American citizen, that we, the people, really need to have a real conversation about how many children are reaching the third grade by not reading at grade level. Because if others can talk about building prison beds for the number of third graders who are not reading, what are we doing as a community to talk about, well, maybe that's not the investment that we want. We're allowing people to build more prisons for the number of children who are not reading in third grade, because guess what? There's no maintenance of effort. I mean, we've created a system in which there's no accountability. That pimping is easy, that dysfunction happens, that rape happens, that incest happens, that children are born with all kinds of disabilities, and we're still trying to provide those services. But guess what? You only get those services if you understand how the system operates. And it operates wonderful as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, there's always holes. There's always ways for people to take advantage of you. Oh, maybe you have breast cancer, but you don't know. Then they do a little surgery and didn't really, you know, hey. And then more surgery, it didn't really, well, hey. More surgery, it didn't, okay. Well, guess what? It's still here. Still standing. And it's important that we understand that it's not a choice. It's something, it's an action. We all have to take an action to stand up, to ensure that we're learning from the lesson that's before us. But, you know, hey, it's about faith, but yes, it's about good living. It's about, you know, eating right. It's about making good choices, about understanding that freedom has never been free. And that if you want to get ahead, then sometimes you have to sacrifice. It's not going to be all fun and whatever. You have to discipline yourself so you can move forward. You have to learn all the rules so you can move forward. It's just how it is. Don't ever step out there and pretend that there are no rules, because there are rules for everyone. There are requirements for everyone. Life is real, and there are consequences for people who choose to ignore that. There are rules that we all live by. Look at us right now. We're in a pandemic. It's called COVID-19. And under COVID-19, we're supposed to wear masks. I have masks. I have several of them. See, I got a cool mask. And I'm grateful to have my mask, truly. But, you know, hey, it's truly life. We have masks. Hey, masks. And we don't have to have them on because we're in the house by ourselves. And we don't go out every day. But, you know, I remember when we lived in Japan, and that was in the 68, 67 or something like that. The Japanese all wore masks. And then you could see remnants of what happened in Hiroshima, you know, even though we were still over there as an occupying country, supposedly for support, but no, really, for our own benefit. Our relationships in the world where our people are stationed are for our own benefit. And, you know, it was wonderful. The opportunity for Black men to go into military services was an awesome opportunity, because you got to really It was a sacrifice, yes, but you got to really understand that there is action in choice. And, and the commitment to the military was a commitment to America. And it was really training more Americans, young people, indoctrinated in the Pledge of Allegiance every day and standing at, to allegiance at 5 o'clock when it was time to, get off work, or, it's just real. Being a part of the military lifestyle was an awesome experience. We got to travel. And then I married someone in the military too, but he's now deceased because he had bad judgment. But what can I say? My judgment was a little bit better. I'm happy about that. I can't say my judgment was all wonderful. No, because, hey, we pay for our sins. We pay for in life for the positions that we put ourselves in. People may not agree with me, but we all have a personal responsibility to ensure that access happens for the children that we bring here. And as a nation, we have a responsibility to step up right now. Oh, Kanye West is running for president. Wow. I guess he, figured if Trump could do it, why couldn't he? Hey. And that's just real. This is a nation in which that can happen. But you have to have people who are willing to step off the cliff for you. And Trump had people that were willing to step off the cliff. And I don't know that he'll be able to do it again, but maybe he's going to give us some money and we're all going to be so happy. And that we're going to pay some bills. And I don't know, but COVID's real. People are dying. And guess what? If you die, they don't have to pay your Social Security anymore. So I suggest you stay in and stay safe. I don't know. Who knows where America's going to be? But I do know this. Education is critical. Take this time out. Educate yourself. Understand that life is not free. Nothing is free, but we are freeborn. And being freeborn means you have choice. And choice is everything. But you will pay for the choices that you choose in life. There's just, a little warm in here. Not warm. I guess it's just stressful thinking about think about this. Now you just have to wrap your brain around it somewhere. Here you are, and you're over 50 or 60. I'm over 60. I'm actually 62. And I could be going down somewhere and be caught up in a situation where someone wanted to direct me in a manner of behavior. And I cannot honestly say that I'm so willing to follow commands. So most likely, that's why I'm not going out there in the protest right now. Because most likely, truly, me, myself, and I would have to be manhandled. And I cannot see myself being punched in the face or ending up like Sandra Bland. Because guess what? There's nothing wrong with my mind. And there was nothing wrong with her mind. She didn't have no low self-esteem. She wasn't tripping. She was an activist. And I am an activist. I'm an advocate. And I understand that there are rules, and the rules must be abided by. And I can keep on asking for the rules until I turn blue in the face and ain't nobody got to listen to me. But guess what? Nobody can stop me from concerning and sharing my concerns either. And that's the best part. I heard in Frederick Douglass had a little video, and he said that if he had an option and he could stir the pot, he stirred as much as he could to ensure that we all woke up and that we all became engaged. Because you know what? It's about each one, reach one, teach one. And that freedom is really real, but nothing is free. You have to sacrifice. You have to put the work in. You have to complete the work. You have to, education is about task completion. If you fail to put your name on your paper, and every day your name didn't go on your paper, well, let's get real. You're going to get no points for that name missing on that paper, or you forgot to put your date on it. And it's like a joke, but it becomes like a routine. You know what I'm saying? The more you learn, then you don't have to be taught that anymore, you know? But if you've not learned that task completion is everything, you know, come on now. Letter grades of Fs being accepted for our youngest children in urban areas where so much money is being spent on vacation time, on professional development, on holiday pay, on sick time. But then Black children should go to school and not get nothing except for a letter grade of F. Somebody can help me with this thinking. I would appreciate it. Truly. I'm going to pause this video for 1 second. Okay, back. So, my question of the day is, tell me the rationale and why Black children should, or why our people should be happy with the outcomes of the public investment for Black people across America. Someone needs to just, come on, inbox me or, share with me some of their thoughts, because I have a problem with it. Because, when I look at, and I've been paying attention and I've been going to board meetings and I understand contractors and contracts. And basically that's how America operates now, because we don't have public job opportunities, equitable access to employment based on public services that should be having some outcomes for us too as a people. That and all shut down now. I'm trying to understand how I should feel that you're saying that Black people are just willfully defiant. And that's why you feel that, it's okay that you kill them because you don't know how they might respond at any time. They might be armed. But, the mere fact that you feel that you need to behave or manage behavior when what's going on in the world, we need to ask those questions. Why do we need someone to manage our behaviors? Why are we not teaching people to manage their own behavior? How much money have we put into the system for programs and services that are just not functional and they're not helping anyone? But we pay these people with our tax dollars. So for the outcomes that we're actually getting, I really want to know what the hell's going on, because I don't see the outcomes. And sure, we have intelligent Black young people, aggressive entrepreneurs, people that are all into their own, just in their own thing, and that's good. We're going to need people across every venue or everything to be successful. But what we don't need is a bunch of people who have no focus, who are illiterate, and who are undereducated, and that we don't have the right to talk about the undereducation of our people. Somebody needs to step up and say, hey, wait a minute, that just ain't okay. My kids made it through, yeah, sure. But, other people, for whatever reason, they accept the letter grade of F, and I'm trying to understand it. Then they said that they always wanted their children to get a high school diploma. So it's okay if you're getting a high school diploma, even if you can't read. Check yourself. There should be an opportunity awaiting you after 12 years of investment, but there isn't. The only opportunity is jail. Because if you make the wrong decision and take something that ain't yours, yeah, damn sure it's going. They got a place for you. They got a place for you if you can't manage your behavior. They got something for you. And if you think that you can take something from somebody, they got something for you. Because guess what? They're always watching. And maybe they don't get you today, but maybe they don't get you tomorrow, but they will get you. And when they get you, and isn't it the same thing in the public arena where people are not doing what they were supposed to do, and then all of a sudden COVID happened, and then we could see who really never had access to the public education system, because guess what? Can't contact those people. And then for whatever reason, those people must be so illiterate that they can only get a ditto packet. I went through the educational system. I do understand that they, where kids are not learning, perhaps they are passing out dittos and they really don't care to get them back. And then some children have no homework and never had any homework. The whole time they don't have no homework. Come on now, when they don't have no homework, they're not teaching. And that's just real. I don't know how to get more people engaged in the conversation. I used to be able to share the Zoom meeting and go to other things, but that little piece went away. The part of the meeting that you could share on YouTube or whatever. But I'm gonna upload this and I'm gonna put it on Facebook and Instagram if I can. And I'm gonna say, inbox me if you have thought about what I've asked. Why is it that Black people have settled for children who don't make it through the educational system, who are just not making it, and who never have homework, yet still they attend school? And for some children, as long as they're not making any waves, they're just allowed to be there. I mean, I've helped children when they were, came on the radar. Basically, they were special ed, and then 12th grade, they knew that they only had like less than 25 or 26 credits. How did that happen? Where was the accountability? Who was following up? Who participates at the school level? Not many people. I mean, it's an open position for you to participate as a community member. I always thought it was open, but till I got here in Las Vegas, and guess what? I don't have any school-age children, but guess what? I don't know what's going on in those schools. I can look at their website, and I still can't tell what's going on because they don't put what they're doing, and they don't measure the maintenance of effort. They just want the money, but they do list the positions that they have hired out of Title I. I mean, that's something. But they don't list the maintenance of effort of what they're doing, and then they don't show the data. And then you can get the data, but you have to get the data from the state. And they don't have any of the data that demonstrates the maintenance of effort at the local level. And then quite frankly, they feel that they don't have to talk to you. But understanding when I say that education is compulsory, there are laws that require that people attend public school. And then that's how they pay themselves. That's why they do taxes, actually. I mean, but we have so many. I mean, and even they got the Raiders here in Las Vegas. Now think about the big pool on the taxation for the Raiders coming here and how much money that was getting ready to bring to Las Vegas. But then, they put people on Regency here too. And they go down and perform downtown, and that's more money. That's, money to the community. But, I guess they're hurting right now because, hey. And, since there's no money in education, that's what they say. Well, hey. But there's money in education for people who have no obligation to the outcomes. And if you want to be a people that are empowered and recognized for your level of intelligence and your understanding and your compassion and the love for your people, then you have to stand up and say, this is just not right. And it is not right. I don't care how you look at it. When I look at the number of children here who are not graduating with the ability to move on into a job or a service or whatever, and this is a service economy, they ain't hiring people who look like you. They might be hiring some Mexicans. But anyways, why do you want to clean toilets in the first place? We didn't been there. We had to do it for free. So why do we want to get back there? I don't think we do. But we want to have our own public services, and we want to ensure that if our children are mandated to participate in the system, that we have a voice in the outcomes, and that you just don't get to decide what's happening, and that there's a level of accountability at all of the critical junctures that children have to meet: K through third through sixth, 7th and 8th, and then 9th through 12th. But that we're ensuring that access happens for those children. And if it's not happening, well, and if you're sending them up there to Spring Mountain, whatever Spring Mountain is, I've heard it, I heard they have a facility there. It's 80% of children who look like me. Chocolate. Help me. Somebody. There are a lot of educated Black people. There are a lot of entertainers that live in Las Vegas. And then, of course, there's the bold, the beautiful, and the bad NAACP that, unfortunately, You can join, but you don't have a right to have a conversation. You can join the Black Caucus too. And guess what? They don't have to hear you. You can call people 24/7 and have a conversation, and they can agree with you that, somehow the educational outcomes in Las Vegas are just so low, not just for Black people, but for all children. But guess what? It constitutes fraud when people are mandated to do something by law, and then they have no personal benefit. Someone needs to help me with that. I'm just trying to measure the maintenance of effort. But if you don't have to talk to me about the investment and that you're just entitled to get the money because, hey, it's free money, well, then that's just as bad as the way they see people who are on welfare getting free items. What constitutes fraud? I don't know. Something constitutes dysfunction. This is 2020. You know what constitutes that? COVID just, opened up the can of worms and said, people have to have housing. And, you have veterans out there that live on the street, but you don't have a process in which they can go through to sustain themselves and become empowered and individuals so that they can continue to live their lives in fulfillment. And then you have people out there who have mental illness, I guess. But guess what? There's nothing out there for them either. There is, however, Spring Mountain, I heard. I don't know what that's all about, but I'm sure there's jail here, and I'm sure that there's a lot of penalties for people who don't actually make it. So for people who don't make it, you know what I'm saying? There are penalties for people who lack knowledge. You don't get a high school diploma. You just somehow don't make it. And it's okay that you didn't make it. I mean, who's complaining? I'm just trying to plug my little thing in. Okay, it's in. But I mean, when so many people are failing to thrive, that's what you need to look at it as. In a medical situation, they would be failing to thrive. But then you have people who come here, who get in positions. I heard that, the people who are in positions of the organizations that should be used to build capacity in a community are being used by people who come from other different parts of, America, I guess. But, they're really not interested in the people here because the opportunities for people who live here are very limited. And I'm just trying to understand how it all goes, truly. Because this is, COVID is really demonstrating the level of unacceptable behavior from the system. The system is broken. And we all have to help ensure that the system gets right, even when you don't know, it doesn't matter. When it gets down to the point where 8-year-old children would rather die than continue to live another day under failed circumstances or under violent circumstances, or that you have Black children who are committing suicide because they're forced to live in a situation or circumstances that they just can't really explain. And as Dick Gregory called it, he said, tell lie vision. I mean, why is it that we still have General Hospital, Search for Tomorrow, Hope for whatever, Young and the Restless, all these dysfunctional characters teaching you what? And you all caught up in it. I mean, it just amazes me. I pull myself out of that shit too. I started watching more and more online stories about where we've been, but I don't want to brand that stuff to my brain. Because, yeah, we've been through some hard times as Americans, but nothing stops me from standing up just like everybody else. And nothing stops me from bringing a conscious thought to why is it that it's so acceptable for Black children to be in the public education system with letter grades of F, floating from year to year? What was the expectation? And why are we supporting systems that fail? That's what I really want to know. So, like I said, hit me up. My inbox. I'm on YouTube and I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook, and I'll get on any other kind of platform to try to, just share in a level of knowledge. And I've been talking a long time. It's been like an hour and some minutes, but it's time to wake up. 2020. This is Darlene Anderson, comments of DA Hay, and I'm signing off. Subscribe, follow me, educate yourself. Just don't listen to me. Educate yourself and understand that failure should never have been an option in the first place.